Linda, good morning. How you doing?
I'm doing great. How you doing, Sam?
Really good. We really ought to start our recordings when we actually start meeting in the morning rather than waiting to go live,
Right up.
right?
We have the best discussions offline.
Yeah, yeah. Some of them would make some really good reels. So, but we're talking about perspective today, and Dr. Dyer, and what you see and what is real. What's your perspective on it? And our conversation was based around sales a few minutes ago, right?
Right.
and perspective and gatekeepers and all the things that sales folks come in contact with every day.
Right.
And the uh, the number one obstacle to sales is a gatekeeper.
And
you know,
in all the years of me being in business with the various businesses I had, my dad was in sales. That was always the number one complaint. And
mhm,
here's the thing. If I'm having a problem with the gatekeeper, it means they're doing their job. They
yep,
are the godsend to the person that they report to.
exactly, exactly.
And how we treat them matters
Yes,
a lot.
exactly. It does. It does.
And so, you know, my dad used to complain about it all the time. And even when I was, you know, early on making calls and stuff, I could never, it's like I can never get past the gatekeeper. Well, guess what? They're doing their job very well.
Right, right,
And that means that the person that they're gatekeeping for relies very heavily on their
mhm,
judgment,
right,
on their goodwill, and on their knowledge of what needs to happen and who they need to dedicate time to speak to.
right, right.
And so how we treat them,
hmm
if you try to sneak around the gatekeeper or you try to run a fast one by them, they're not going to let you in. And if they let you in or you get in, I can guarantee you their boss, the person they're gatekeeping for, is going to hear all about
Oh, absolutely.
what they feel happened.
Yep. And that seed of distrust will be placed in the boss.
Yes.
And then everything will be questioned. Your price, your delivery, everything will be questioned.
Just like we were talking, how you treat the staff when you're out to dinner, how you treat
Oh,
your
yeah.
waiter, the busboys, the water person. If you treat them like less than the professional they are at their job
hmm
and the human being that they are, that's on you. That's not on them.
Yeah, it is. It is totally.
And it
I
reflects and it reflects and that gets around.
Yeah, it does. It does. I worked the food industry for the longest time. It's one restaurant that we were a very, very busy restaurant. And Sunday is a big, churchgoer day, come
Yeah.
into the restaurant. And as a pastor, um, I always recognize how you treat people is, that's a reflection on your relationship with God. Well, we had, I can think of two different pastors, two different situations, two different denominations, whole ball wax. One would come in and we would have servers say, I'll take them. Okay. And the gentleman was very friendly. His wife was very friendly, talked to them. Everybody knew he was a pastor and he always tipped very well. And another pastor who came in and very nice to people and stuff like that, but his tip was always what do you call them, track that said, "Here's your tip," and then would basically give a gospel message. Which I don't have problem with the gospel message. I have a problem with the fact that that's a different kind of tip, right?
Yes.
And so, and nobody wanted to wait on him, no matter how nice he was or anything else. One Sunday he comes in and he says, And so he knew I was a pastor, and knew that I worked. I didn't work every Sunday, but was able to. I was able to get out. And he says, I'd like you to come over to my church. And I said, no. He said, why? I said, you come in here, you leave a tract, you never leave a tip for tip for my servers, and they take very good care of you. If that's how you're responding to your parishioners, well, I don't want to come to your church, you know. Um, and so, how we do things, exactly what you said, how we do things when we're out and about, that's a reflection of us. And if we're going around the back door to get into a business, then maybe we need to think twice. It is, and that brings an interesting thing. So, when I was in food sales, the idea was to always try to go in the back door, not because you were skirting the chef or anything like that. You can see so much more. And you see the dishwasher, you see the busboys, you see all those. In the food industry, today's dishwasher is tomorrow's chef,
That's right.
you know. And so, but you got to know people that way. Then you would go see the chef and do your ordering and things like that. There were a couple places preferred I came in the front door. That's okay, fine. But I always learned the dishwashers' names, the line cooks' names, and stuff like that, just because you never know in the industry. And so, but skirting a gatekeeper intentionally, I think, will always backfire on you.
I think, and even if it doesn't happen right up front, and that other part of the perspective is I don't know about you, but if I'm doing that, how am I feeling about myself?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And yes, I want business, but I don't want to have to fight tooth and nail for it. Maybe it just means that that's not my client right now.
Right. Right.
And they will eventually,
Yep. Yeah, you have to build a relationship within the organization,
yeah.
and if the gatekeeper is the key to your C-level uh, prospect, okay, fine. But if you don't have a relationship with the gatekeeper, no matter how you go about getting into the C-level prospect, you're always going to have to go through the gatekeeper.
And when you're working with like small independent businesses, when I was a photographer, Jeff could have been my gatekeeper, not because he answered my phone and did those kind of things, but he was my spouse.
Mm-hmm.
And doing photography at nights and on the weekends and all of that kind of stuff took me away from time with him.
Mm-hmm.
And all of my clients made sure that they were very nice to him and friendly to him, because they knew that if they gave me, if they wasted my time or they gave me a lot of trouble, that if it made him unhappy, it would make me unhappy.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And so it doesn't have to be these big, large corporations.
Well, no, not at all.
Solopreneurs have a gatekeeper.
Mm-hmm.
It's usually family, friends, other
Mm-hmm.
situations. And even when you're in, say, you're grocery shopping, everybody that works in that store can be a gatekeeper. So if you're trying to, get an in with your local store and you treat the staff like crap every time you walk in there, sorry,
Yep.
you're not getting up there.
Right. Right.
It's like any other service industry. They know who treats them nicely and who doesn't.
Right. Right. That's funny you mentioned that, because I have a friend who has two shops, and he's the owner. So when he introduces himself, He says, "Hi, my name is, I own XYZ company." And so that gives people the incentive to say, "Well, I know the owner." But when they come in and they say, "I know the owner," and they treat the staff like
Yeah.
garbage, they don't get no discounts. They may think they're getting a discount because the owner comes out and gives them a deal, but I know him, and it's like, "You treat my people like that, no, I'm not going above and beyond
No,
for you."
the price is the price.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
so let's kind of wrap this into Dr. Dyer's, when you change the way
yeah,
you look at things, the things you look at change. Think of your relationships, not just at home, but maybe when you go to work, if you work for someone or if you own your own business. To me, the light shines or the door opens when I just remember that I'm not dealing with a title, I'm not dealing
mhm,
with a position, I'm dealing with a human being. And
right,
to start my interaction in that place, you know, not being in a rush. Good to see you. I'm here to see Joe.
mhm,
So many people feel disenfranchised, especially right now.
mhm, mhm,
Um, we have no idea what someone may or may not be struggling with, but they're
yeah,
there and they're doing their best. And to just acknowledge that they're seen. Because again, if you view the gatekeeper as just somebody to get out of the way, so how can you change your perspective on that part of the relationship, how you
yeah,
treat that person?
yeah, I think, especially when it comes to the relationships we're talking about right here, um, we need to be able to see what's real about the gatekeeper, okay? And usually in sales, our perspective is she or he is stopping me. We need to change the perspective on that. This will be my greatest ally.
Hmm.
If we look at the gatekeeper as our greatest ally to doing business with this company, and we will begin to treat him or her with the proper respect that is due, and they will notice the difference. People notice how you treat them.
Oh,
You know,
absolutely.
yeah,
And
and the gatekeeper's right hand person to that C-level executive.
that's right. And what seems like a bother for us as the salesperson is a godsend
Yes,
to the
yes,
CEO or
yeah,
whoever they're gatekeeping for.
yeah,
And
mhm,
so they're doing their job very well,
yeah,
and they're being rewarded for doing their job very
mhm,
well. And so to be degrading or to be off putting or to just make it look like they're not important, they may not be important to you, but they're sure important to the person they work for. And
right.
guess whose opinion matters most?
Yeah, yeah, exactly, exactly. You don't have a relationship with the C-level executive. She does, or he does. I had an interesting one with a construction company, literally just right across the street from the company that I worked for. And everybody in the industry who tried to sell to that company had to go through her. Um, she was stubborn. You're not getting in, boom, boom. I mean, she was very good at her job. And once again, he relied on her very heavily. But I paid attention to what she was doing, what she had. I had a conversation with her every time I went in. It got to a point where she would talk to me for a few minutes. She knew what we carried. She also knew where they ordered all their stuff. They had their very, very set in their ways. Older company, right? Family business. and they had multiple locations, but this was the primary one. And one day I came into the office and I have an order from them. Well, I hadn't even set up an account. And so I told my boss, this is who it is, boom, boom, boom. And he said, they never order from us. I said, I know. I said, but if you look at my call sheets, you'll see I've been calling on them just about every week. And so we went ahead and placed the order, shipped it, sent it with open terms. And she called me within a day or two. She says, I didn't need that right away. I said, you ordered it. You must have a need for it. So that's how we ship, unless you specify. And so from there, it began to build. Okay. It started off very, very small. It was one of those, she knew what we carried and she knew what she needed today. Well, it turned out that she was the gatekeeper, but she was also the order processor. So everything went through her. So if you can't see that gatekeeper as a person who is trusted, it's not a secretary. She has more responsibilities than what a lot of us think a secretary has to do. She's sitting out in front of that executive's office. Trust me, she has a lot of responsibilities. And so, from there on out, our business began to build. And you know what? I never had to call on them for the business. I had to go in and say hi.
Right.
And, and she called her orders in. She was one of the easiest clients to deal with.
And, when we look at those, again, they're their boss's greatest asset, because when you're working with people in the C-suite or even, smaller organizations, their job requires them to be in a lot of different places, have a lot of different things going at one time. And so that gatekeeper is so important to make sure that their time is spent on the things that need to be spent on. And I can guarantee you that talking to all the salespeople isn't what they're supposed to be doing.
Mm-hmm.
You don't get to be CEO so you can talk to the salespeople.
Right.
So you have to reframe what you're going in to talk to them about,
mm-hmm.
and how you talk to that person between you and the CEO. And so it could be, we would all love to walk in, get to visit with them and sign the deal and just do it one time, but stop by, introduce yourself, and then stop by and just say, I was in the area and I wanted to come in and say hello. And, be observant.
Yep.
They'll have things around their desk or in their office area that might give you a clue about, do they have kids, grandkids, pets,
mm-hmm.
things that they like. And you can start conversations up around that
mm-hmm.
without ever mentioning talking to the CEO. Just, I was in the area and I want to stop in and say hi. How are the kids? How are the grandkids?
Yep. Mm-hmm.
You were on my mind. I drove by and I thought, I need to stop in and see her or him. So changing our perspective isn't always on, this is the situation I'm in, how can I look at it differently?
Mm-hmm.
How can we approach things differently? How can we turn things upside down? And also sometimes think, if what I'm doing to this person, someone did to me,
mm-hmm.
would they get through?
Yeah. How would it make me feel?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. We had, I got a lead and they gave me the address and I'm like, that is a broken down old building. Nothing good can come out of that, right? and it was a pretty large building, but it was just battered, and it was a lead, And so I walked into the building. The garage doors were all closed, so I go into a side door, and they had like 4 or 5 brand new big rigs for the oil field. They were ramping up. Well, they needed all sorts of stuff. Nobody called on them because of what the place looked like. So, what was real about that business? Saw a broken down old building, right? Inside is a brand new company. They used the broken down old building because their priority was not a building. Their
Right.
priority was their vehicles, their equipment, and everything else. And then they were getting ready to open a second location. And you're familiar with the oil business there over in Wyoming and Denver, or the Colorado area and stuff, that oil field over there. And so they had a second one, and it's still in my territory, but into Colorado. And from that broken down old building, came a large account.
Right.
So looking at it from and I probably drove past that at least once or twice a week because of the area that it was in. Never even thought to stop in there, but the big doors were never open.
Right.
So never saw the brand new trucks.
And here's the thing. Do they have to have all the best stuff in order to do their job?
No.
Is what they're doing something you can assist in?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So, I'm just thinking how I go about my day, and there are times when I think, oh, I have to sit down and do this. Well, I don't have to do anything.
Right.
I get to do.
Mm-hmm.
My body has to breathe.
Yep.
My blood has to pump. Everything else I get to choose.
Yeah, exactly.
And I choose to do it with joy and with purpose instead of obligation. And I think when we make that choice, it reframes everything that we do.
Yes.
And it's not just for that thing. Like I said in one of the other episodes, watching Alyssa Liu was so eye-opening because she just reframed the way she looked at what she was doing.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And yes, I'm a business, so I need to focus on my outcome. But I don't need to be so focused on my outcome that I lose the joy in doing what I set my business up to be in the first place.
Yes, exactly.
So
you have a program coming up. Excuse me.
I do. On March 9th, I'm doing a complimentary teaching on perspective. And if you scan the QR code up there in the header there, you can register for that. It's at 7 p.m. Eastern time. And we're just going to talk about different ways that you can reframe your perspective and why it matters.
Yeah.
So
that's the 9th, you said, of March, right?
The 9th, yes. So a week from
that's 2 weeks away. So jump on that program with Linda, and get a little fresher idea of how we look at things.
Yeah, and there'll be some great takeaways. I've got some exercises you can do that can help you reframe problems. When you're stuck on a problem, or just when you decide what you're doing isn't working, how you can reframe that and get a fresh look at it without having to completely scrap everything. We don't always need to start over completely.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's just a small shift.
Yeah, that's it. Sometimes the little things make a big difference.
Oh, it doesn't always have to be that grand leap, you know.
Right. Right.
Think about when you get up in the morning.
Yep. Yep. Yeah. You
I gotta
know,
sit up.
yeah, exactly. So as we come to a conclusion today, you look outside and, what do you see? Do you see the beauty that has been created for us, but it's raining or it's foggy? But what's real? There's beauty in all of that, right? Um, when I lived in Jackson Hole, sometimes the fog, the rain, the snow, and everything was so thick you could not see the mountains, but they were still there.
That's all right.
So, what's real to you? And I would strongly, strongly recommend you jump onto Linda's program on the 9th.
All
Scan the
right.
QR code there and change your perspective. Change the way you look at things.
It's eye-opening when you do it.
Yep.
And I find myself changing my perspective on things during the day all the time.
All the time. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Well, Linda, this has been fun.
It's been great.
And yeah, and we'll see you guys next time.
All right. Have
Bye
a good
bye.
day, everybody.